podcast excellence since 2005. This is the King of Podcasts radio network, kingofpodcasts.com.
Hey, Netflix, do you feel like you're really getting what you paid for?
Woo! Hey, this is the Nature Boy Rick Flair, and believe it or not, whether you like it or don't like it, learn to love it, because you have to listen to Wrestling is Real. It is the best thing going today. Woo!
The worldwide leader of podcasting excellence, the King of Podcasts radio network proudly presents The Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
Here we are, episode 901 of the Wrestling is Real podcast. Thanks for listening to the program, finding the shows you always do through the courtesy of kingofpodcasts.com. Really, Netflix, do you really feel like you're getting what you paid for? I mean, do you really honestly think that, sure, you got the debut. It was a lot of pomp and circumstance. It was very slow paced, but you had some pretty significant matches on the show. And then the second episode, it's like back to normal. We're in WrestleMania season now. The Royal Rumble, arguably the second biggest pay-per-view of the year. By far. And the Royal Rumble, you already get an idea of who's going to be already featured in the matches so far, right? We got an idea that already we're already getting participants. We have 7, basically so far, set to go. John Cena, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, LA Knight, Jey Uso. Okay. It's the best that the roster has right now. Of all those names, I guess minus LA Knight, except for the fact that LA Knight's 41, and he's been around for a long time. The ages and all those stars, 40s, right? I mean, I don't know if, well, no, Roman Reigns is what, 37, 38? But yeah, what about all these other stars in NXT that you would think that would be coming up and doing something? Oh, let me think. And I'm doing the on purpose. Because don't do that if you're doing podcasting. It's just not a way to do that. But seriously, if I had to go figure out Karrion Kross, right? What about the Viking Raiders? What about Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, or all these other stars that could have already been making their claim and declaring to go into the Rumble? Any other big stars we have besides this? Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, no. I mean, compared to what we've had, if we're just going to have the start of the 30-man Royal Rumble match and any of these stars vying to be a champion, whether it's going after Cody Rhodes' undisputed WWE Championship or Gunther's World Heavyweight Championship, I don't feel a lot of excitement or bombast right now. The Netflix era doesn't feel much different than anything else. It's WWE without Vince. It's officially that. And it's also WWE without Vince under TKO control. So we're under corporate control right now. They didn't give us 3 hours this week. 2.5 hours for Raw. Meanwhile, SmackDown's going to still be 3 hours until they say it's not. But we're going to just assume it is. At least at WrestleMania time. And some of the things that they've been doing right now to set things up for said pay-per-view coming up. PLEs, you want to call it that. The idea of building up stars. So we got one debut finally coming out of this whole rank and file of WWE. We can talk about that right now. Penta El Zero Miedo. Just going to be called Penta. No Pentagon Jr., no Pentagon Dark. So Pentagon Jr. going back to 2013, 2014 for Lucha Underground for myself. That's what I remember him from. The promos at that time, subtitled, but let me tell you, they've always been consistent. He never got to talk enough in AEW. I mean, really, the Lucha Underground presentation of Pentagon Jr. was the best I've seen in any place except for Mexico. Let's just put it like that. Lucha Underground's presentation of Pentagon Jr. was the best. He was 2-time Lucha Underground champion. It looked great on that show. And he fought some great opponents on that show. It just worked. I mean, he looked death-defying. Now, the second place he probably was best used was TNA, Impact Wrestling. He was a champion there. Him and his matches with Sami Callihan, fire, amazing stuff. He had good, very, very good matches in Impact Wrestling. Enjoyed what they did with him over there. So that would be a testament to Scott D'Amore. I don't know if Tommy Dreamer was there at that time, but still, it was just wonderful. And remember, it was also during that time that we also had Tessa Blanchard, who, is now coming back, working for TNA once again. And TNA is presenting Genesis this weekend on pay-per-view, Sunday night pay-per-view. So I will be doing a post show for that. We'll talk about the card a little bit later on. It is some of the same, but is, still, they do a really good job over there. I mean, they got some good stars, and they're really making the most of who they have on their roster for themselves. And as for AEW, Powerhouse Hobbs was the flavor of the month in a title match against Jon Moxley, him and the Death Riders are dead on arrival as a gimmick. It's not working. And for him to feel like he's going to take over the whole company, well, the whole company's got a bit boring since he came in. Her Syndicate has brought some life in. We had some of that. But other than that, I mean, I'm trying to think of what else there is that really got me enjoying what the product looks like right now. What wrestling looks like right now on the major brands. It's just not. It's not working. And that's a bigger problem that we have altogether. I don't know what they're going to do about that, but there has to be some kind of resolve here. AEW tonight did Maximum Carnage, Cincinnati, Ohio. A lot of crap being talked about the venue that they used for tonight, but it looked good on TV. Regardless of what everyone's saying, oh, look at WrestleTix. Oh, look, there's only 1,500 seats. The Andrew J. Brady Music Center. Yeah, they didn't pick a big venue, but it looked good. Kind of gives you the Hammerstein Ballroom kind of feel to it. But we got Kenny Omega and Brian Cage. Quite a match. Then you had that on Don Callis family going and attacking Omega, only to have Will Ospreay come back out to help on the save. That was great. So that right there, what they're going to do with Don Callis family when you got Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher and just having what they have right now, that works for me. So I like all that there. Ricochet and Strickland have a confrontation. We're just waiting for that match just to happen. As much as there might be something that's going to come out of any promos or any kind of build to the match. Hurt Syndicate, they take care of Mark Briscoe, Private Party, and continues on with that. So Hurt Syndicate is making a name, and to keep that group as the veterans right now with Lashley, Benjamin, and even MVP being a part of the match, that's great. I like all that. Use them. If you brought them on into the company and you want to bring them in while they're fresh, yes, use them. Put them in and involve them as you need to. The Jeff Jarrett, MJF stuff. Jeff Jarrett finally gets his couple of cents back. Only then MJF comes back and starts going after Karen Jarrett, and then the back and forth there. But the promo back and forth between them was good. And I like it. I mean, listen, Jeff Jarrett can cut promos back at MJF. The guy's been around forever. He's got a mouth on him, so let's go ahead and go with it. I'm still feeling some heat with MJF and Jeff Jarrett, which is good. Jeff Jarrett playing the face here, but still being a cocky face and, the old veteran. MJF, I think, working through these veteran stars like he has, it's good for him just to kind of just for his own reputation. He wants to be able to go and go through the long list of veterans that are out there that he can go ahead and place. So, I mean, he's done it with CM Punk. He's done it with Chris Jericho. And he's doing it right now with Jeff Jarrett. Why not? Everyone wants to go and shit on Jeff Jarrett, but listen, regardless of what he's done in TNA and his run there, or his run in WWE, right? Or what he tried to do with Global Force Wrestling. But still, he comes from a family lineage of wrestling that is important, of promoters, working in Mid-South, working at USWA. There's just something about where Jeff Jarrett has been out there. Has he been like the most important wrestler ever? No, but he's out there like everybody else. He's significant. He's a significant player in the whole realm of pro wrestling. And this is just a different style of his gimmick. I mean, he's the last outlaw. That's what his gimmick is right now. We don't see the guitars anymore. We don't see the, King of the Mountain, no Double J stuff like that. All that kind of just like is, out there. But he still matters. He can still wrestle. And so if Jeff Jarrett wants to go and have the ride out with MJF and, this whole idea where Jeff Jarrett could go after the title, and this is like a comparison to John Cena's retirement run, I don't care. But it's fine. I don't think MJF being hurt in this, they're making the most out of the angle. I'll give it that. Very interesting when you get Kazuchika Okada and Tomohiro Ishii in a Continental title match that'll be on Collision this Saturday night. Christian Cage and Hook got each other. We get the return of Samoa Joe. So, getting back to this again, just seeing what they're going to do with Hook and Christian Cage and where they're going to go with it. It's great to see Samoa Joe back. We need him back. Some more star power. So everybody's going to get a big, hard look at, the predictability of the Women's Casino Gauntlet match for Grand Slam Australia. Yes. So Mariah May up against Toni Storm. Yeah. Who else do you expect to go ahead and face for the title? Sure, there's other stars in here, but yes, Australian stars, right? Isn't Mariah May? I don't forget if she's written or not. I forget. But either which way, let them go ahead and face each other. You bring the match back, and Toni Storm right now is doing pretty well in the reversal gimmick, going back into amnesia. That's all worked really well. And it was a good showcase to go and show where Chris Statlander's out there, Willow Nightingale, Harley Cameron. Just a lot of changes going on. Julia Hart that came back. They didn't do too much more with it, but I don't know if there's just some people that are just not being presented right now for whatever reasons. That's one thing we don't get a lot of information about is about the status of certain stars and what they're doing. Megan Bain comes back in. Big deal was being made about that for her return. It's been a long time since we saw her in an AEW ring. And then Moxley and Hobbs. We did have some plunder during the match. And some way, somehow, Death Rider still reigns supreme and Moxley's still champion. Yeah, it's there. It's fine. And that's all I'm getting right now is a big bucket of okay. Am I overly impressed with AEW? No. But what I can say right now is that there are some things that are different, right? MJF Jeff Jarrett, that's a very traditional, solidified main event star, and MJF continue to still build upon his legacy, going after someone who can almost be considered almost like legendary in wrestling, even if you don't feel like he's made any accolades. But you know what? He's still going to be a Hall of Famer, whether you like it or not. He's still a Hall of Famer and qualified. I don't know if he'll be a WWE Hall of Famer, a TNA Hall of Famer, but it's like his career matters. It just does. I don't need to go and explain, but he does. Everybody knows who he is. And believe it or not, he's probably drawn some shows. So, go ahead. I think more importantly, what he's done as a promoter is more significant than what he's done as a wrestler. But no matter what, his family, there's a lot of contributions to it. And we know a lot about what Jeff Jarrett's done in his career in all his different variations. We've seen it all. But then what WWE decides to do, right? WWE decides to go with us on the Netflix show tonight, or something on Monday night. And we start off with what a Vince McMahon kind of thing would have been. When you see some of the major stars are going to be brought in to compete in the Royal Rumble and declare, okay, they made that a point. CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, all together, they announce they're going to be in the Royal Rumble. Wow. Really? Like, that's all it is. LA Knight's already declared. Jey Uso's declared. There'll be others. I'm sure Sikoa and others will be in there. We don't know. But one thing they also did that they didn't worry about following up too much on what happened last week. So Liv Morgan was in the backstage role for the most part. CM Punk, Seth Rollins confronting each other at the start of the show, but as part of a bigger picture for Royal Rumble. Drew McIntyre, Jey Uso can still be something of an involvement for the Royal Rumble, which kind of attaches to this. But Drew McIntyre and CM Punk back at each other's throats again, and Seth Rollins in the same way. So we're back to that again, right? And then there's a couple of things I decided to go ahead and go with that are much like a regular Raw presentation that's on USA Network. You give us the debut of Penta. Now, a lot has been said about this. Many people online have been like gushing over what happened on here. But first of all, I want to go take a couple of things that are on X and explain what was being said out there among the ether that is Twitter, formerly Twitter, now X. Because it's one of the spots where I think wrestling fans really do put out their words and say a lot of things. WrestleOps put out a story. They put out a headline last week after the Raw Netflix show saying that from Rob Fee, Director of Character Development, he says that the show is going to get only more addicting from here. This is all fluff, but he says, quote, over the next several weeks, months, and years, you're going to see stories from the beginning, how they start building, how these relationships play out, how superstars interact, and you'll get invested in these stories. The nuance is captivating, so much attention to detail. If you enjoyed tonight, you're in for a treat because it's only going to get more addicting from here. Well, there was not a lot of follow-up from last week. Let's just make that clear. That's okay. I see one other person online that was talking about the fact that when you see Penta make his debut on Raw, and it, of course, fuels a debate about other stars that WWE fans want to go and see come back. Yes, they really want the feeling of like, let's get the revolution back into the WWE, right? What they want, what the fans want right here, the toxic wrestling fandom, they want to replicate 1999. When Shane Douglas, Chris Benoit, Perry Saturn, Dean Malenko, and I forget who else was in that group. When you had all those stars make their way into the company and left WCW in mass exodus, Eric Bischoff signed off on it. Let him go. Mostly cruiserweights, you could say. And when they did, you would see them appear. And of course, there were some prominent names out of that. Chris Benoit definitely became a big name coming out of that. Not really much so much for Dean Malenko, not so much for Perry Saturn. Like it was just, you know, of the stars that left in the exodus of WCW, it was Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero. I should have mentioned his name. Sorry. So yeah, Eddie, Chris Benoit, those are the names that really stood out the most. And the company ran the toxic wrestling fandom, which some of them are getting fed information by those of the vocal minority of the toxic wrestling fandom that do podcasts, that do radio shows, and do, you know, blog posts, or they do Twitch streams or whatever. They're all starting to feed that whole idea like we're going to get that again. It's like Monday Night Wars all over again. They've wanted to ask for that for the longest time. Look, you're talking about one show that's no longer on cable television. They're offline. They are digital. They're not on a set platform like a cable or a network. That's nothing wrong with that. They're on Netflix. But they're on an island with Netflix. And they're also not freely available on Monday nights unless you pay. One person online says, Tony Khan should just release Ricky Starks, Ray Phoenix, Miro, and Malachi Black. And anybody else says, That's their heart is not about growing the company they work for. Fuck them, flood the market. AEW was founded by people who wanted to change the game. They have and will continue to do so. Look, well, if that's the case with Tony Khan, if he did sign free agents that, for whatever reason, brought them on, we have to understand this too. In one respect, sure. Do we want to go and explain the fact that with all those stars that are leaving or could leave AEW, because they were except for Ricky Starks and Ray Phoenix, I mean, Miro and Malachi Black, former WWE stars. Now, some of these other stars that were brought in, with Tony Khan, there's a couple of things that happened with all this. He did have additional programming to fill. Battle of the Belts, Rampage, he had Dark and Dark Elevation. So there was a lot of shows that he had. Now it's much more streamlined. Battle of the Belts, that's gone. Now he has Dynamite and Collision, and we'll have Shockwave at some point, whenever that's going to be, and whatever that's going to show is going to be, along with the pay-per-views. Now, part of the thing that I'm kind of always confused about is that among the younger stars that he is building up upon, trying to go and build them up and become bigger, it is the off and on thing with the booking on them, which is the part that I feel like he's doing that. Tony Khan's doing that because he has to go and make good on using the stars that he has. So it is something about where Jack Perry, Daniel Garcia, Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, they don't necessarily, of those pillars, don't necessarily get a lot of time all the time. And meanwhile, there's some other stars that have been brought in and they might get moved over to other brands. Like Sammy Guevara was part of that, but he's been in Ring of Honor for a while. Not much of an explanation why, but he's there. Ricky Starks, in a prominent role, a lot of people are saying that it's because of his comments about CM Punk that changed things up. With Ray Phoenix, it was an issue about his injury status and that he has an extension to his contract now, which didn't allow him to leave at the same time that Penta decided to go. Miro, I'm not even sure. I know there's been a lot of injuries with him. There's been a lot of issues of injuries with him that have really have held back his work, which is unfortunate. But on the current roster they have right now, one thing you could say for sure, they don't want to also just change the complete setup of the game because they have the stars that the FEC want to make sure they're using. So John Moxley, Christian Cage, Cope. Now you get Samoa Joe back, Adam Page, FTR, Swerve Strickland, Ricochet. Like, you have plenty of star power across the board. But Tony Khan's never been the kind of person to go ahead and saturate with certain stars so often. I mean, maybe Chris Jericho, but he obviously wants to go and work. And part of it might be, too, is that where Tony Khan, if he doesn't have a storyline to go ahead and bring a star on, he's not bringing him on. Because he'll have stories for somebody else, and he'll just work off of that. And I don't know if that's the reason why he's doing that. I really am not sure. But that's something that he's had an issue with, where you have off and on storylines. And stars that are on television, off television, and take a little bit of time off, come back. This is that whole Wade Keller thought I was thinking about back in the day, where Wade Keller thought there should be an off season because of all the amounts of injuries that stars have. Well, it's pretty obvious. Wrestlers still have injuries because some of these stars are still working other companies. Look at Kenny Omega. He's been gone for a long time, and now he's back. But then you also know that there's certain stars they bring in that are new free agents that they're going to get prominently used because they're getting paid. So he's utilizing them, and if you're not necessarily liking what he's doing with them, they still got to get used because he's paying their contracts. Mercedes Moné, Will Ospreay, Kazuchika Okada. He's brought them in. He's going to use them. But the organization, the way that it's being done now, you could get away with that for a while. With the amount of talent that kept coming in, the influx of talent coming in, and the fact that we have now some stagnation with some of the stars that were here and now they left. Well, I mean, Tony Khan has been doing a thing where he has let some people go, but have they succeeded anywhere else? That's the thing you got to ask yourself. Like, who has really succeeded anywhere else outside of TNA. Okay, the Hardys, they moved off, but they're now on TNA right now. And really, who is it that came from AEW over to WWE that's really made some real significant change so far? I mean, you got Ethan Page, but you put him over on NXT. Did put him on the main roster, even though he might have had some point where he was kind of significant over there. But think about it. I mean, who is it they have right now that is out there significant and you're like paying attention to on the main roster that really matters? Like, is there anyone right now that you really feel like is really giving you that so far? In the current setup of WWE right now, think about it. When they've brought in some stars from other companies, okay, Motor City Machine Guns. But that's the TNA. With a little bit of work at Ring of Honor, I don't know if they actually, I think they did work a little bit while Ring of Honor had it under Tony Khan's control. But really, who's been brought over that can be said? And the reason why the toxic wrestling fandom wants to go ahead and see some of these stars move over is because it's fresh talent to bring on over. I mean, do any of these folks really believe that if you brought back Malachi Black, if you brought in Ricky Starks, or if you brought back in whoever, as Triple H, Bruce Pritchard, that whole team over there, have they proven that they've been able to build any new stars at all? So you get Lyra Valkyria right now with the Intercontinental title, the Women's Intercontinental title. She wins that. You got Tiffany Stratton winning the women's title over on SmackDown. But like, among who else is there that we have that has made much of a difference so far? Like a young stars, they're working their way up. Ludwig Kaiser, nothing. He's out there, still loses. Penta's a veteran. Penta's going to be a different story anyway. But I was talking to a friend of mine about this, who doesn't watch a lot of wrestling, but he's one of the few people that did pop in to watch the Netflix show because he has Netflix. So there's obviously some curiosity that's already started amongst people that watch on Netflix that might go ahead and watch Raw. So there's that curiosity factor that's on right now. It's there for a honeymoon period. But when I look at it right now, I'm just saying to myself, okay, when he was asking about Penta, he was like, oh yeah, this guy was from here. He worked in Mexico. He's got a brother. He's with this and that. And I'm explaining the whole thing to him. And I was saying to myself, Penta El Zero is an excellent talent. It was a great match for him to have against Chad Gable. Excellent. Chad Gable's still a star on the come up. I don't know if you want to throw him against Penta El Zero and let him lose. Penta, you could have had Penta go up against anybody else. But they decided to go and give Chad Gable the chance at the match, set it up on a very quick run. They had a great match, but like, did Chad Gable need to go and take the loss? Well, it's a little bit of a jokey character. But I guess because of his size, Chad Gable will never get looked at for main event. It's just not going to happen. Sami Zayn will. The thing is that the rub on all these Ring of Honor stars, they came with a pedigree with Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins, and others. And saying, okay, you got all that there. And sure, you think you're going to do anything better? Oh, let's get Undisputed Era back over. Let's go and get Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong and all these others. Let's get them back over to the WWE, right? You think it's going to make any difference? The thing is, the younger stars, like the new crop of stars, where are they building some stars that are going to do something? Grayson Waller, Austin Theory still teamed up in the tag team and they're really not going anywhere. Jade Cargill, before she got injured, was paired into a tag team when she really could use a singles run. I try to think about, like, what are they doing to help build up? Like, stars that could be on the come up, they're going to be young and up and coming. Pretty Deadly? No, they're a joke. They're presented as such. But, like, for the most part, not a lot of young talent on their way up. Braun Breaker in the crowd. Isn't he still Intercontinental Champion? Why is he still sitting back there doing nothing? I mean, Gunther is one of those stories you could say is successful, and he's there, but I mean, you really can't screw him up. But once they took that 600 plus day reign of him as Intercontinental Champion, and they kind of just wasted it. Like I said, wasted it on Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn got nothing from that. I honestly feel like Sami Zayn is like a jump the shark character. he's a killjoy, but he's involved in so much. And the fact that they need to go in and involve him in everything when it comes to storylines and all, and Seth Rollins has to talk to Sami Zayn backstage and all, it's you know what? I don't get it. The Bloodline storyline, no focus on Raw. John Cena, we don't see anything about him again from last week. It's just kind of there. No return to Logan Paul yet. I mean, who else do you have right now that's going to be coming back and making some real changes? Netflix, you're getting stagnation right now. The USA Network paid a lot less for what you're seeing right now. Netflix, you've invested $5 billion into this company, into this product to boost up. Now, some people were really impressed by the numbers last week when they talked about the ratings, right? 2.6 million viewers. And that's based on the live audience plus next day. Live plus one day. USA never did that. You have the Fast National ratings, which would be the overnight ratings, and there would be a little bit more that would be included after that, after any other runs of the show that were run on USA, whether it was the West Coast feed or whatever it was. So, with that said, when you saw 1.5, 1.6 million viewers at the tail end of USA's run of Raw, to get 700,000 viewers on a delay, on-demand viewing 24 hours later, not the same thing. But people didn't really pay attention to that. We didn't really get a full view of what that was all about, but people were going to say that was all. That's fine, okay? Now, Sportskeeda put out a story, Mark Middleton, talking about what the changes that are being done to Raw right now as it's still being worked out. So there's been significant momentum for the show. I mean, listen, you started off okay this week, following what you did last week, but again, still slow, still plodding. A lot of commercials, because this time the feed I had all the commercials on it, 3-minute commercials at a time. It's not much different. Used to be 4-minute commercials for USA. Now you just get them 3 minutes on Raw for Netflix, and everybody gets them. Everybody gets them. So the story says here that there's an unresolved problem, that speculation about what might happen next week, but we know that there was a 3-hour format for Raw years back. USA wanted to add that extra hour of advertising time. So there's been a lot of talk about the additional freedom that WWE could have when it comes to overruns and how Raw ends. No hard outs, no more leeway and flexibility, less censorship. With the first 2 episodes, one of the more prominent issues right now, internally and among fans, is the length and the ending of the show. Unpredictable what we're going to get. Now, Penta arrived in the company, defeated Chad Gable in a match that went long, as did the post-match promo. Everybody's been talking about the post-match promo. It's fine. He's still going to do great when it comes to speaking in Spanish, because this is his strong suit, and his promos are always very much more dominant and bold and confident when he's doing that way. But that's one of those things that it's always the learning curve with the fans. If they will go ahead and take someone that does not speak clearly in English and still has an accent. And that's the problem that everybody has with a lot of stars, which is why you see all these changes where Asuka or Kairi Sane or Shinsuke Nakamura always go into some certain stigma stereotypes that have always been put into for the longest time. So this week they ended at 10:30. Not sure what was going on with that. But yes, Damian Priest, Finn Balor in the street fight, they end up, Damian Priest gets a win, and they finish at 10:30. PW Insider says that was by design, the finish. WWE doesn't have to go 3 hours, which, yeah, absolutely, you're right. You can't go ahead, you don't have to go 3 hours. That's true. They probably just need to go and make sure just to go and clear the ads that they have for the show as in general. So yeah, they're basically running like a sporting event. Like when the event's done, it's done. When the main event's done, that's it. They don't have to go and cut off at a certain time, which is fine. Officials say they don't want to go over each week. They say that once an episode is timed out for a certain length, if it goes past that runtime for whatever reason, then officials will do what they can to bring it back to their desired time frame. So the Penta post-match thing, the match itself and the post-match promo, they were shaved of the segments as a result. So other segments were cut once Penta and Gable went long. So officials also wanted to avoid any overtime fees that could have been added to the arena rental, local staff use for the taping, and their own staff. And there's also the goal of ending early enough on West Coast time so talents and staff can be able to catch their red-eye flights back home. So they're going to still have to deal with logistics of their timing, no matter what, when they handle the shows. But for the on-air broadcast, they want to go and deal like that. Now, dark matches also played a role in this week's finish. WWE wanted to go and get 2 planned post-show dark matches out and done, and wanted the overall taping to end within a manageable time frame. PW Insider pointed out how the Netflix premiere was treated like a pay-per-view, while this week saw things go back to normal. The dark matches they had were Bayley defeating Nia Jax and LA Knight defeating Shinsuke Nakamura by DQ, and there were 2 main event matches that were taped before Raw. Pure Fusion Collective versus Katana Chance and Kayden Carter, and Pete Dunne versus Joaquin Wilde. Yeah, those stars you're not going to see on TV. Pretty sure of that. Fightful Select said the timing did not come as a surprise. The dark matches were planned for several days. Wanted to keep it in the lineup, and that Raw doesn't have an official link moving forward. So it's going to be 3 hours, 2.5, but the company will have a run time in mind that they will try to meet each week and align with the aforementioned report. Multiple sources say that WWE has more freedom with Raw times now, and they're really trying to end this week's loaded live Red Brand episode in 2.5 hours. The Fightful Select report seemingly confirmed the other update, noting that internal claims were that some talents were trying to confirm that they could be able to get a flight out of San Jose and go home. So be ready to know that we might not see anything at all when it comes to what the plan will be with Monday Night Raw and what time it's going to end. So it's unpredictable timing, which that's fine. I mean, for some people that are going to be watching, they're not going to expect to say, okay, well, if they think they're going to come back at like before 11 o'clock, they couldn't see the main event, they're not going to know what it is. A little bit unpredictability right there in the timing, but that's it. Oh, and there's a story that's being brought up right now that after Chad Gable lost to Penta, Charlie Dempsey and Chad Gable will face each other in a number 1 contenders tournament so they can compete in the WWE Speed semifinals. Speed. Who watches that show? I don't watch it. I don't know anybody else who does. There's also been a lot of talk about Corey Graves and his status within the company because he has made some comments online that obviously got some people getting a little bit worked up. So taking a story from USA Today, we know that Pat McAfee's back right now since college football is over. The national championship is coming up next week, but Pat McAfee's duties at ESPN during the college football season are done. And I'm guessing it has not anything to do right now with NFL because Monday Night Football is also done for the year too. But everything that went ahead and changed. Joe Tessitore now works with Pat McAfee. What I mean is Joe Tessitore is working with Wade Barrett now on SmackDown, and Cole and McAfee are running things on Netflix. And they decided not to bring Corey Graves into the mix, so we don't know what's going to happen to him. But he's been now pushed to NXT. So now he's in a 3-man deal with Vic Joseph and Booker T, and some people might say it's a demotion. But he doesn't like the fact that Pat McAfee can just come back in whenever he does. And Corey Graves put on X, quote, imagine chasing your dream and being told, not deciding, that you're no longer physically able to pursue your dream. Then you dedicate your life for something dream adjacent and pretty being fucking awesome at it. And when then it's time to enjoy the fruits of your labor, being told you're not famous enough for your own job, just in case you wonder where I've been. Jonathan Coachman made a point about the fact that how he had to going through that, where JR and Michael Cole also got moved off the main announced roster and things like that happened, and saying that, playing in the sandbox a little better might not hurt next time. But right now, we don't know if Corey Graves is putting himself on thin ice right now for his comments and big butthurt of the fact that Pat McAfee's going to come in. Well, because Pat McAfee's coming with a contract. And it's a TKO decision. So for anybody that's, going to bat for Corey Graves, maybe a Triple H, I don't know, but they're not. It doesn't matter now. It doesn't make a difference. They're not going to care. So among the other comments I saw on X that should be brought up as well, there were some talk, Wrestle Talk actually talked about this, that there were talents who were not thrilled that the Penta Chad Gable match combined with Penta's post-match promo went way longer than initially planned, which will cause other segments to be cut later in the show. 13-minute match, and I think it was about a good 5 minutes that Penta got to go and was cutting his promo. And so a lot of people were really happy to go and see Penta out there working. He was fine. He was fine out there. Look, I just don't know if this company has the ability to take a star like Penta and do something more with him besides his catchphrase, besides his moveset, and besides his look. Can you sell a lot of merch with Penta? Absolutely. You can definitely sell merch with him. So just on that alone, you're fine. His work in the ring, fine. But if that's all you're going to look for him for, then you're not looking at him as a main event star. You're just looking at him as, okay, he's just going to be in here and he'll just be part of the mix. Because my problem is, what level is he going to go and be at? I mean, if he's content with being upper mid card, maybe he could be in the Royal Rumble, but there's no honest feeling that I think he would ever be considered anything more than an Intercontinental Champion or a United States Champion. I don't think he would ever get past that level. I don't think they'd ever give him the chance to be main event. To the level of Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, which is the level and the prototype of what the WWE main event star is. Roman Reigns in that mix, right? But really, I mean, Penta has some good storylines in there, whatever they decide to go and do with them. But other than that, no. He could be another Shinsuke Nakamura. And I fear that's what he's going to be. But it doesn't matter. If he's getting paid, great. If he's getting a payday, he had his family in the audience, awesome. But the debut, they gave him a great run. A great move out there. San Jose, predominantly Latin American crowd, great. A lot of Mexicans in the crowd, so you might have some people that are very familiar with him, not just with him, his work in AEW, not just his work in Impact Wrestling, not just his work in Lucha Underground, but his work also in CMLL and AAA. So people will know who it is. And if you haven't, it's a great look. I mean, just to see him come out fresh, it's an amazing, brutal look. And they're going to start him as a face. All right. When you look at what he always does, I always felt he was always much better as a heel. But that's neither here nor there. I thought his work in Lucha Underground as a heel was fantastic. And I will say this. I think Alex Abrahantes as a mouthpiece for Lucha Brothers and their heyday was significant, and I thought was really good. But I would still prefer that Pentagon would be able to go and do his promos like he did. And let him go in Spanish. Add a little bit of English to it, but let him go in Spanish. Bread and butter. Let him be the luchador that he is and give him all the moves. And of course, he can't do package pile driver because that's Kevin Owens' move. But whoever's at the main event spot right now is the same people in the main event. We have no clue about what they're going to do with the main card of WrestleMania. But listen, Vegas can't be that hard to go and sell tickets there. That's an attraction in April. Should be easy to go ahead and sell out Allegiant Stadium both nights. It should be. Just for the fact they'll get comps from all these hotels that'll send people to WrestleMania anyway. So if it's not the fans that are buying from them, the hotels will. The hotels and the ticket brokers, they will sweep up the tickets for WrestleMania. So that's a sold out crowd even before they put it out there. Guarantee you that. So for those of you fans out there, you think you're going to get your tickets in Vegas, you better get on there and jump on the pre-show ticket sales early. You got to get online early if you want to have a chance. Because this year, the tickets are going to go quick. That, I believe, I'm going to predict that. But what are they going to get at WrestleMania that's going to really stand out and do anything? Well, Royal Rumble's going to give us that. But who they have right now, it could just be some of the same old, same old. Again, John Cena, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, LA Knight, JSU. We're continuing the Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens storyline. So we're going to get a ladder match. Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens. Not much interaction with them. Not much heat going on between either of them. They're just letting it kind of just simmer because they're building up Royal Rumble. But there are no other matches scheduled. And only Nia Jax so far has been set the claim for the Royal Rumble match on the women's side. That's it. And dare I try to figure out if they're going to go to Saudi Arabia next year and bring Royal Rumble there. And also the fact they might do it as 2 nights. I don't know how you're going to do it and make it really important both nights, to be very honest with you. I don't know how they're going to do it. Doesn't really sound like it's going to be much. On a side note, I want to go ahead and give congratulations. So Kings of Coliseum last week for MLW and Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle is once again MLW World Heavyweight Champion, beating Satoshi Kojima, which was great to go and see him there. Also, Donovan Dijak worked out there. He's part of the St. Laurent's team, his faction, and he took on Kenta and won. And Delmi Exo won a title versus hair match for the MLW Women's World Featherweight Championship, just to give that mention as well. And then for a contract for the MLW World Heavyweight Championship in a Gravity Gamble match, Mads Kruger beat Akira Brett Ryan Gosselin, who's one of my favorites right now in MLW, Matthew Justice, and Mr. Thomas. So that's their real major setup there. Finally, let's go ahead and get into TNA Genesis. Now, a report did come out that TNA Genesis has reportedly surpassed Ring of Honor's Final Battle ticket sales for the same venue, Curtis Caldwell Center in Dallas, Texas. Congratulations, TNA. So they're going to get a great crowd out there. They've been pulling some good crowds out there for themselves, and they're doing all right. You could see it on TV. They're just doing much better. I just wish you had a better channel to be on. That's what I wish they did have. But anyway, they got their Genesis show this weekend. World Heavyweight title. It'll be Joe Henry going once again after the world title against Nick Nemeth. Hardys will take on the Rascals, Zachary Ramirez and Trey Miguel, for the TNA World Tag Team Championships. Moose and Ace Austin for the X Division title. Moose is champion right now currently. Hardys are champions in TNA as the tag team division. Spitfires, Danny Luna and Jody Threat will defend the Knockout Women's Tag Team titles against Ash by Elegance and Heather by Elegance. Interesting enough, Masha Slimovic will not be defending the Knockouts title, it looks like, so far on the card. Still waiting to see if that's actually going to be the case. But Jordan Grace and Tessa Blanchard will face each other in a feature match on the card. So just double checking here. Oh no. It did not get added here where I saw it on Fightful. Okay, here we go. Other matches they have scheduled: Frankie Kazarian and Leon Slater will be in the pre-show. Josh Alexander and Mike Santana will face each other. And Masha Slimovic will take on Rosemary in a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match for the Knockouts World title. That's all coming up this weekend. We'll see how it all turns out. And we will come back this weekend again. We will do a post show right here, kingofpodcasts.com. Make sure to go ahead and come back for that. That'll be fun. And as always, the website is kingofpodcasts.com. Go ahead and look right there. Get on the social media. All my social media links are over there. You want to go ahead and help out with a PayPal, buy me a coffee, Cash App it, whatever. Please feel free to donate there. Plus, you can find all my past shows and where you can find them: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, and all major podcast platforms. Come back this weekend for another Wrestling Gets Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.